how many colors can they name in 1 minute? Attention and concentration, how do they spell the word world backwards, no? So sometimes clients would have a labored effort on how to reproduce this one. Naming objects, say for example, the wristwatch that I have pointed out, following commands, touch your nose, for example, start with one command, then two, then three. It has to be progressive. Writing, say for example, Kanisha, it is a hot summer day. For spatial orientation, like say for example, physical spatial orientation, or it can be also that they would be reproducing a Bender Gestalt card or a clock drawing test. Like the STEM, the instruction that I always, not always, sometimes give for the orientation is uh, draw a clock that states 10 minutes past 9. So sometimes you have to be contextual as well because not all individuals are familiar with the analog clock. So sometimes very digital, sa phone na lang mo tanaw. So they're not familiar with that. So that's why sometimes it's safe to administer a Bender Gestalt card instead. For the abstract reasoning, as what I have asked earlier, people who live in a glass house should not throw stones. So how do they interpret that? Or what do they mean by that? For the judgment, what would they do if they found a stamped letter on the sidewalk? And as what I have mentioned, the challenge with this one is sometimes they don't know what a stamped letter is. So you have to modify. What would you do if you find or if you found a wallet with identification at the sidewalk? So that's how I modify it sometimes if they don't know what a stamped letter is. For the short-term memory, again, we go back to the three questions that we asked them, the three items that we asked them. Psychomotor activity, if you ask them to do some things, like say, for example, stand, turn around twice, that also gauges their psychomotor functioning. Risk assessment, actively ask, are they doing things that would harm themselves or others? No, if they would say that they are, no, you have to execute safety planning automatically. Who can be an emergency contact? What would they do if they are in distress? Um, Ask the other person in the household to hide things or to be mindful of the things that the client or the service user could use to harm themselves. So those are the things, no, that we cover usually for mental status examination. It's not just plain observation, it can be administered in a standardized manner as well. Now, going back to the question, how do we differentiate some items based on the client's narrative na hearsay or gossip lang as opposed to something that is significant? Well, of course, you have to ask relevant questions that would inform your, say for example, that would inform your final report later on. I can provide you with that. I can provide the organizers with that, and they can share it to you.
Thank you very much, Doc, for that
So
meaningful response.
okay,
Yes, po.
for a while, again, you have to make sure what's something that would inform your final report. As sa pangutana ba, say for example, nangutana ka sa imong client, you ask your client, the context is that um, na na ay third party ang iyahang papa, and therefore that's what causing them the distress, no? It's no longer relevant to ask, kabalo ba ka sa pangalan sa didang sa imong amahan? So of course, you don't ask those questions. Only ask questions that would inform your final report later on or would inform the entire assessment process. Do not ask questions that are miscellaneous in nature and that would not be significant for the data gathering process. Yun. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, po, Doc, for that meaningful response. So let's proceed with our next question. So for our next questions, in terms of online clinical intake sessions, po, how can we gather through behavioral observation?
You have to take note of that. Whenever you are writing your report, you have to take note that the information gathered were taken in an online context. So, therefore, there are things that might be missed out. So, as much as we want to make sure that everything is encompassing, there are limitations when it comes to online interactions. So, therefore, you have to, kung sa research pa ba, butangan mo siya og limitations, no? A scope and limitation. So unsa lang ang scope, so on and so forth. But what's important is that whether or not you're doing your behavioral observations virtually or in person, in vivo, you only have to report about the things that you have observed, nothing more, nothing less. Do not say that the client did not display anxiety related symptoms. If they did not say that, or if they did not portray that, you do not include that in your write up. Only include things that has been portrayed by your client or service user. Because again, in your forward in your psych report, because you would always put that these things are a product of the current functioning as portrayed, as shown by the client or by the test taker, and anything that would arise in the process or after this process would significantly change the way that this report would have been written. So again, always go back to that, no, that make sure to state a limitation in the process, and only include things that were portrayed or shown by your client or test taker.
Okay, thank you for that comprehensive explanation po, Doc, no? And I'm sure our participants learned a lot from it. And one of our questions po includes, in your experience, asking from your experience po, what clinical skill is often overlooked but highly important for success?
The fact that even if we're doing assessment, we're supposed to be asking questions. Asking the right questions, making sure that they are open-ended, and making sure that they are non-judgmental, that's something that is often overlooked. Most of the time, we're too concerned about the mechanical aspects of the assessment. Are we giving the right test? Is this standardized? Is this correct for the test taker? But essentially, the test taker, the client, is there as another soul, as another human being, and therefore, to communicate well, you have to ask the right questions. If you're not asking the right questions, you won't be getting the right things from your client. So hone the skill of asking effective and right questions. Make sure that they are non-judgmental, open-ended, and sensitive as well to the context of your client. So that's something that's often overlooked, especially because the training in the undergrad, which a lot of us has undergone, no, the focus really is the mechanical aspect of assessment, but not so much on the human component. Remember that your client, your service user, and that's why we call them clients, because they are a better half of the entire assessment process. You have to communicate with them. Communication, asking question is in a sense communication, and therefore you have to make sure that you are well versed in both the science and art of asking questions. And that's something that can be, something that you can develop as maybe a learning session, another learning session in the future, the science and art, because it's both a science and art. It's one thing to be politically correct about the things that we are asking, but it's also another thing to ask it or to deliver it in such a way that is non-offensive, or in a way that is sensitive to the needs of your client.
Right. Thank you po, Doc. Thank you for those explanations, and thank you everyone for your insightful questions and active participation. And at this point, I will now be handing over the floor to my co-curator, Mr. April Lone, who will continue to facilitate the next set of questions from our Zoom chat. Okay.
So thank you very much, Ma'am Steph, no? I like the term kanina ni Doc na parang psychology or our practice is just not purely science, no? Or yeah, like a human generating data, but also an art, no? So, but I have a question here, Doc, that actually a technical, no, question. Sabi dito, in cases where a client presents low mood during the MSE but does not show depressive symptoms on a test, how can we deal with that kind of information? That's actually
That's why mood and affect, those are two different, not really entirely different. They're overlapping, and politically correct stance is that mood is something that you report, whereas affect is something that the clinician has observed. If the client did not report um, low, say for example, low or elevated mood in a scale that we are administering, but they show or present themselves otherwise, again, that would inform your report later on. No, so again, there are a lot of things that the client does not say, but the way that they present and carry themselves, that would speak more volume than what is actually being said. And therefore, the you follow up, no, you ask follow-up questions. Another aspect to that is a lot of our this is one thing that I have learned in my PhD course under Dr. Alianan, one of our former presidents in the Psychological Association of the Philippines. We have to take note that a lot of our tests were indigenized from without,
yeah.
meaning they were Western tests. They are Western tests taken into our own context. Even if there are local validations, norming conducted, we cannot discount that the fact that these are tests created by the West. And they do not fully encapsulate the essence of what it's like to be a Filipino. And therefore, these things, sa language palang daan, no, the way that these questions are framed and asked, a lot of times there are misinterpretations coming from our end, not because we don't understand it fully, but because our context is different. MMPI, or say for example, BPI, or even other personality assessment or personality pathology tests. I talk to the dead. What if your culture that's completely acceptable in your culture to converse, to talk to your dead relatives? Say for example, not just the Philippines, but the Mexico, diba? They have the Day of the Dead. They talk to their dead relatives, and they revere their dead relatives in that sense. Now the question is, if not just the mood aspect, not just the anxiety aspect, but other personality pathology components of it, would you note that as a personality pathology where in fact that is acceptable in their culture? Of course not. So again, there are things that are said that would be misinterpreted. That's one. Or say, for example, something that would not be fully captured by these um, nomothetic tests. They have
Yeah.
the tendency to put us into pigeonholes, just classify us high kaani, low kaani, but that doesn't provide any context or the full context at all. So you have to make sure that even if you have to ensure, that you are using these tests and still be wary, not really wary, but be mindful lang siguro of the results, especially if the test would say that, oh, high in psychopathology or high in depressive symptoms, anxiety, low mood, so on and so forth. But again, you have to take note that the contextual aspect, no, where is your client coming from? And are there things not reported but is shown or displayed by your client? That's why behavioral observation, we have to be fully engaged in the assessment process. We have to make sure that the things, no, we have to make sure that we are fully tuned in with our
Mhm.
client rather than just allowing the tests to describe and um, essentially just describe your client, because our clients, our service users are more than just numbers, no. There are nuances that's not fully captured by a lot of Western oriented tests that in essence would be elucidated or would be highlighted by the things that you would be doing other than standardized assessment. So you have to make sure not to be nuanced and contextual as well.
Thank you, Doc. Follow-up question ng Doc, hindi ba din ba factor po yung like the tendency of social desirability in terms of asking questions of test report data? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
essentially.
Thank you.
No, say for example, impression management. Is the client high in acquiescence, or
Mm.
are they non-acquiescent in the way that they are responding? Are they presenting themselves in a positive light, a negative light? Are they doing impression management? Are they hiding some things about themselves? Or even, I'd like to go back to the language aspect. Are there things, no? Dr. Alyanan cautioned about this. Like, say, for example, for MMPI or BPI, it says there that grade 12, based on the manual, if I'm not mistaken, grade 12 to college level. But is the college level reading ability in the Philippines generally equated to the college level reading ability of those that have been normed or used as a standardized sample in the creation of these tests? So that begs now the question, same BAUG level. So therefore, there might be a lot of misinterpretations coming from, or responses that do not really hit the point coming from Filipinos or other non-Western nga mga test takers. So again, going back, another based on the current question that you ask, yes, it is really a factor, no? Social desirability, acquiescence or non-acquiescence, the fact that a lot of us would have the tendency to present ourselves in a positive light, that definitely would impact the entire assessment process.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Doc. And another question po, sabi dito, how can we gather data from a non-verbal user, such as PTSD client and those who have schizophrenia?
That's very biomedical in nature. You have to make sure that the client has some symptom stability first, because definitely you can't get information from them verbally. So in that sense, allow the client to develop some symptom stability first. Then you interview individuals that would be, that would now be like another person as a referent. Kinsa ang immediate na relatives, no, or people that has an extensive knowledge about the person. We can't get them as our reference in coming up with information about the client. But ultimately, you have to confirm this once you are able to achieve symptom stability. Now, the client is able to achieve symptom stability, you have to still get information straight from them.
Thank you so much, Doc, no? That kind of information actually help us, no? Especially mga bago sa field, no? And at least we have our knowledge, no, before we enter into this kind of profession, no? So similar to what you said kanina, Doc, that the MSE, the observational skills are actually not in a single sitting manner, no? Like learning also actually demands like a developmental type of learning. So thank you so much, Doc, and I'll give the floor to our MCs. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Aprilone and Ma'am Stephanie, as well as to our participants for those questions, and of course to our speaker for the very informative and practical responses. We actually also learned a lot from that, Doc, since we're also having our practicum.
At this moment, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to our dear speaker for generously sharing his time, knowledge, and expertise.